Hello, welcome. Going to play Where in the U.S.A. is Carmen Sandiego on the Commodore 64. I'm just doing a quick intro to show you all the items that were included in the box. I mean, old computer games often did come with a number of materials, but this series has a bit more than most games. Because back in the 80s, there was no internet, and this requires, you can guess or you may know everything, but it requires looking things up to know where you need to go, and throughout the game you have to track a criminal across the USA in this one. The first in this series is Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. So USA comes with a travel guide, world, an almanac. Another one I have is Where in Time, and that one includes a desk encyclopedia. These are all rather large books, which is why the boxes are so wide. Commodore versions often released a year after the other computers. So USA released in 87 and World in 86, but the series began in 1985. So this is the big travel guide. It's over 800 pages. So when I'm playing the game, I'll talk about obviously as I play, but I'm not using this, which is the big reason I chose USA to play. Also, I plan on posting this 4th of July weekend, but I didn't want to slow the video down by having to stop and look things up all the time, because that would have taken too long. And I figured I could just kind of figure it out as I go. I mean, you can get things wrong in the game. It's not a big deal. And here's a scrapbook. This is just something for fun. It doesn't really impact the playing the game. A warranty information and backup disk information booklet here. You can order backup disks, which is what that was for. Here's the floppy disk, games on both sides. And then this is a map and an instruction manual. These are all the instructions on one side, and then a US map on the other. So this could be useful if you don't know where the cities are in the game. You'll see that they're given a list of cities you have to go to next. You just have to figure out based on the clues which one to go to. So this shows you the game. There's an in-game map as well with your destinations, but they don't have the states outlined. Alright, I'm going to go to the gameplay now, and we'll point out the audio levels may be different, so you may need to adjust that. Okay, I'm recording this audio after playing the game. I had to change some things up because some technical difficulties, so I'll try to stay on point here. But this game really moves a bit slow, and it's just reading text really. So here I am entering my name, of course. You have to use the keyboard for that, but the rest of the game can be played with a controller, which is what I'm using. So I went with the name I figured I played under as a kid, which is my regular name. So I have the rank of Inspector. If you were to start a new game, it would be rank Gumshoe. Figured a higher rank would mean a more challenging game or a little bit longer game. And so here the game is just giving a rundown on the crime committed, and what you do in the game is track down a criminal every single case. That's, it's the game. It just randomly gives you a case to do. You complete it, you complete enough, and then you move up in rank, and you just keep doing that. So here I need to flip the disc over, and you won't hear that, of course, because I'm recording this separately. Normally, you'd probably hear me flipping the disc and the disc drive grinding, and probably me hitting the controller, but don't have to worry about that. So here, we start in Indianapolis. You'll notice it says Sunday at 12 p.m. That's essentially a time limit. Hours count down as you do things. You can always look at the connections for free, but departing by plane, if you select a destination, each flight takes a few hours depending on how far it is. Then investigate, there's 3 locations to investigate. Each one takes a few hours, and using the crime computer, it takes a few hours. So it all adds up, but the game gives you plenty of time, so the time limit usually is not a concern unless you go flying to the wrong destinations quite often. So here you can get, one clue might tell you enough of where to go next, but you can investigate all 3, and sometimes you get secondary clues, not about where to go, but about who the suspect is. And you have to determine who that is before you actually reach them. So you'll notice here, I can't remember exactly what I was doing, but sometimes I'm sitting in the same spot for a while. I think I was having a hard time reading or commenting on the W's and M's for this font. Plus, I normally play on a small TV, and with my eyesight, it can be hard sometimes to pick up on some of the letters. And I don't fly to the wrong destination throughout this gameplay, or this playthrough, but I am stumped sometimes. But I guess well, because I'm not using the travel guide that was included with the game or any references. And today, if you sat next to a computer or you have a smartphone, you could use the internet as your travel guide instead, but playing the US version isn't too difficult. Being an adult who grew up in the US, you can usually have a pretty good idea where things are, even if you've never heard of them. The other games like World and Time that I mentioned in the intro, those would be much more challenging without using some sort of book like the books they come with. But here I figured I could just wing it, and I do just fine. And this is the whole game. It's just, you go to each location, you investigate, you get clues. Now it's teaching U.S. geography in this one, but it makes it fun. It's probably why these games, got to be so big, as parents saw the educational value and kids found it fun, so they just kept making new and new games, and they didn't just stay in the 80s. I mean, they kept making games on other platforms. And of course, there was a game show in the early 90s where kids could go on TV and play against each other. And there's an animated series today. Not many computer games reach that level of popularity, expanding outside the original media. There are a number of games that have had movies and cartoons, but I think this is one of the most popular or well-known franchises, or game franchises, I think. So you'll notice long delays, as I said. They're not always me thinking, they're part of my technical difficulties. So the recording is absolutely fine, because going directly to the recording device, there were no problems. You can't play on the recording device though, because there's a delay when it's recording. And my problem was in the output to the device I was playing on. I can't output directly with the HDMI cable to a TV. It just, the signal doesn't get read for some reason, so I have to use this little converter box. It's like a $10 item that I bought a few years ago, and it's just flaking out on me. I kept losing the video signal. That's why I wanted to do a separate recording, because I had to keep, I was probably making noise in the recording. I didn't even listen to it, but I was banging on the little box. I had to keep unplugging the HDMI cable from it and plugging it back in, and the picture would return, but only for like 10 seconds, so I was struggling to see anything on screen when so I had to keep stopping, and that's why I guess it is a little tough to watch, but I can't re-record it again, and the same thing will happen. I'm gonna have a hard time. I'm not gonna be able to record any Commodore videos for now unless I get another box. So the Commodore has been the most challenging to record videos from, mostly because it broke the first time I recorded. First I had to buy an S-video cable to record off of it, because the original Commodore cables, they're not, I mean, they go into the original monitor, but they don't work on anything else as far as I know, so I had to buy an S-video cable. Then the first video on Commodore I made for this channel, Speedball, the Commodore broke at the end of the video, and then I thought, well, maybe it's the power cord, so I bought a new one of those, but that didn't fix it. Well, let me just go over the crime computer here that I'm using. So I only have a few clues. I'm only entering a few, but I messed one of them up, so, which is actually a good thing, because if it had matched something, I would have matched the wrong criminal. Now there's a bunch of clues you can fill in, as you saw: hair color, favorite sport, hobby, but yeah, I realized I messed up the food right away, so I went right back to it. And you can get, figure out who the criminal is, like I do here, off of just a couple clues. I mean, you know if it's a female or male from the start of the case. So the warrant is issued. You need the warrant. If you catch up to the criminal without the warrant, then you don't win the game. You can't arrest them. Yeah, well, that's the end of the case. You start a new game. So saying the Commodore bought the power cable, it didn't fix it. I had to mail the Commodore for repairs. On the way back, the Postal Service crushed it. It just shattered the whole keyboard casing, which is really disappointing, because there's different types, and mine seems to be, or mine was, what seemed to be kind of rare compared to what's out there. I had to replace it with the browner, smaller casing. I had a larger case that was more grayish in tone. And now the converter box is breaking, so something else. Alright, I should talk more about the game here. When you depart by plane, sometimes you get less options, which does make it easier. And I think 5 is the max, unless it gets harder. I don't know how many different rankings there are, but this was an easy clue: Mount Rushmore. So the clues aren't necessarily the city, like the city that item is in, that location is in. It's just the state. So you're going to each individual airport. That's why you're flying to those cities, but the clue is just sending you to that particular state. So you just need to know, what state those cities are in. So I've run out of things to say. I don't know. I've recorded this audio a few times because I'm having a hard time getting a nice clean. They pick up the computer fans in the background. I'm trying to figure out a way to get around those. Yeah, this one took me a while to decide on, but ultimately I realized really only New Hampshire makes sense. And the rest of this case stays in New England, which helps because that's what I'm most familiar with. I've never been to a large portion of the U.S., the whole kind of west of Michigan, north of Arizona. I passed through a few states on the freeway, but otherwise I've not been to that whole, pretty much 25% of the country, I guess. Of course, you learn about these things in school, but it helps to have visited the areas. Just having, an image in your mind of where things are. And I don't know, travel helps, but I don't travel too much. Of course, the travel guide it comes with should be able to point, players to each location if they use the book correctly. You can see there one of the clues about the criminal, but we already know all the details. It told us it was a Bears fan, so a football fan. So it's not telling us to go to Chicago. It's just telling you about the suspect themselves. So next up is, I guess, Augusta, Maine. And then I believe is the final destination to catch the criminal. So you don't actually do anything other than make choices in this game. You don't have to fight the criminal or arrest them yourself. You just, watch the screen and it happens. And the first clue here is quite easy as well, so I don't need to investigate any further beyond this one. Samuel Clemens would be Mark Twain, and the Mark Twain house is in Connecticut. And so we're off to Hartford. Only 3 selections there. And I don't think the game ever sends you back to the same state you've been in, so right there, Concord wasn't even an option. Maybe it does, but I don't recall ever having that happen. So this is just telling you the criminal's here. You just have to choose the right spot. Eventually you would. And there goes the police. Well, there goes the suspect and then the police car. There we go. And so that just, adds to your record. You just have to keep accumulating solved cases to rank up. And I assume ultimately getting Carmen Sandiego. I don't know if I've ever caught her, or if the games allow you to catch her. I think so, but I'm not positive. Right, so that will mark the end of the video. Thanks for watching.